Hey, I'm finally back on YouTube. I want to make a video today about RC Sproul, who is one of my all-time favorite theologians, and RC has passed away back in 2017. And now there has been, RC started a ministry called Ligonier Ministries, and there's a strong tendency within Ligonier to protect RC's legacy. For instance, here's a biography, RC Sproul, A Life, put out by Stephen Nichols, who's associated with Reformation Bible College, which RC started, and also Ligonier Ministries. And I've noticed that when people like who are fans of RC, just like I was, I've read over 40 of RC's books, and I'm a huge fan of RC's teaching method and his theology in general. But unfortunately, I think that there is now sort of a whitewashing going on with R.C. Sproul's theology to make the man better than he really was. And I want to give an illustration of this today by showing a quote from this book here. This is Truths We Confess, the second edition, which is an exposition of the Westminster Confession of Faith. This one is the one volume version that came out in 2019 after R.C.'s death. There was also the original version here, Truths We Confess, Volume 1. There's a 3-volume set here. This is the original exposition of the Westminster Confession of Faith by R.C. Okay, now let's say this is the one that R.C. actually wrote, okay? And this is the one that came out, that was put out by Reformation Trust, which is the Ligonier publishing arm, after R.C.'s death. Now, the thing that worries me is, let's say we find a difference between this one and this one. RC was already passed away when this one was released, so this was the original. This is actually RC. Now, I have no problem if RC himself edited the version again, and then this was actually what RC changed in here, but I'm going to show you an example of an error in theology that was found in the first version, but now it is all fixed and really orthodox and way better now in the second edition. And I'm noticing that Ligonier keeps releasing new things from RC after he has already died. And now I'm concerned that they are sort of fixing up some of his mistakes here and there to make him better than he really is, because Ligonier depends so much on RC being such a reliable teacher of theology. So for me, I have a strong interest in historical theology. My wife actually has a PhD in historical theology. So we're all about, like, let's see things as they really were. We don't want to have a false idea of Augustine or a false version of the theology of John Calvin. Let's see what he really said and evaluate that properly. And I'm concerned that now you're with RC, maybe as time goes on, 10, 20, 30 years from now, or with all new editions of RC's works coming out, that all of a sudden they get tweaked in little ways to change it as we find as theology progresses. Okay? So here is the problem with the original version here of RC's theology in chapter 2 of the exposition of the Westminster Confession. This is the section here regarding the Trinity. Okay? And there was a controversy in around 2016, 10 years after this book came out, about this idea of whether God the Son is eternally subordinate to God the Father, or is it just something that happens outside of the Trinity with respect to the economy of salvation? So here RC says, here is the eternal subordination of the Son to the Father. And this is his comment on the section where the confession says, the Father is of none, neither begotten, nor proceeding. And then RC goes on to say, yeah, listen, I'm not saying that the Son is ontologically subordinate to the Father, but when it comes to the economy, there is some sort of eternal, functional subordination to the Son. This is what RC affirmed, because things were messy back then. Hell, even I believed in this. I used to think, because I was so attached to complementarianism, a very strict, hard version of complementarianism, just though I thought like the wife and the husband are equal when it comes to their essence or what they are, but when it comes to their role, the wife is always subordinate to the husband, okay? And then we used to draw a parallel with the Trinity, just likewise, the Father and the Son are equal when it comes to their nature, but when it comes to their roles or what they actually do, then the Son is eternally subordinate to the Father. Okay, and now I just showed you how RC actually made that same mistake there in his first version of his book. Now, when this controversy broke in 2016, RC was still alive, and he said that he rejects that idea that the Son is eternally, functionally subordinate to the Son. And he said because the Father and the Son both have the same nature and they have the same attributes, and he said that the Son has the authority of God, and therefore he cannot be functionally subordinate to the Father eternally. Okay, so RC did clarify his position on that. But now, in the new version, when you go to that same section and you read what it says there, I took very careful notes here. You see, that's where it deals with it. And then also on the next page, I wrote myself some notes. But basically, in this version, it strongly rejects the idea of any sort of subordination of the Son to the Father. Let me just try to find the exact quote. Yeah. He says, "In his state of humiliation," this is Jesus, "therefore the Son submits to the Father according to his humanity. But this submission does not reflect or entail any kind of subordination within the Godhead. Such would be impossible given that the Son is homoousios with the Father according to his divine nature." Okay, now if you have this new version, you should go read it. It's on page 67 and 68. It's far more advanced. It's way better. It talks about the relation of the Father to the Son in a far more sophisticated way, which basically all the good theologians who are trying to be orthodox, we've all picked up on the language now. We're post this 2016 big debate about the Trinity, we've all become more classical, and we're using Nicene language to talk about all of these things, processions and eternal generation, and proper ways of speaking of the missions of the divine persons. So this new one is fire, okay? It's 100% correct. It's really classical. It's very good. But the old one was not very good. So I could see why they wanted to release a new one, but I'm just concerned that RC didn't write the new one. RC wrote the original, and now all the boys here at Ligonier are adjusting this thing. There's also other examples later on in this book where they kind of tweak things and adjust it. Maybe I'll talk about that another time, where it talks about how does the two natures of Jesus, his divine nature and his human nature, how do they fit together in this one person? Because some people have charged RC with Nestorianism or flirting with that. So again, the new version is more correct, but the old version was a bit sketchy. But the main takeaway here for us is to think that we should not try to whitewash theology of the people who are dead afterwards, okay? They were just normal people who made mistakes just like you and I, and they, in their time, changed their theology or used different words to describe their theology. But I really want to know what's going on here with Ligonier. Maybe I'm just out to lunch. Maybe they are not doing this. Maybe RC himself made these amendments to his exposition of the confession, and then I'd be happy to retract my accusation here. But it's very curious for me how what's going on here is theology. The dead guy's theology all of a sudden is getting better the longer he has been dead.